He once read the NDP platform and used it to start a campfire. He's never been to Toronto and plans to keep it that way. He once met Jeff Rath for drinks. They left the napkin behind. It's now Alberta's founding document. He taught his son to ride bulls before he could ride a bike. He doesn't plug in his truck. His truck plugs itself in out of respect. He refused an honorary Order of Canada, said he'll wait for the Order of Alberta. They made him Marshal of the Calgary Stampede. Ottawa called it a dangerous escalation. He once walked into a vegan cafe on White Avenue and asked for a AAA ribeye. He's not a separatist. He's a realist who's done waiting for Ottawa to change. He doesn't believe in job security. He believes in being the guy they always call back. He doesn't drink kombucha. He drinks gas station coffee brewed at 4 a.m. and forgotten until 3 p.m. He doesn't want to fix Canada. He wants to free Alberta. He is the most Albertan man in the world.
Hey everybody, PJ here. Let's talk about the state of this country, if you can still call it that. In a recent interview, an RCMP spokesperson basically came out and said that if you hold traditional values, you're probably an extremist. Yes, you heard that right. Apparently having common sense and respecting old-fashioned values now puts you on some sort of watch list. They made these statements after reports came out of active duty military members allegedly forming a so-called anti-government militia. We'll also be looking at a powerful video from TruthSeeker, a blue-collar Canadian girl who's been getting a lot of attention online. She lays it out plain. There's just not much left to celebrate on Canada Day anymore. And we'll hear from Mitch Sylvester of the Alberta Prosperity Project, who says what a lot of Albertans are finally admitting. There's no such thing as a free Alberta within Canada. The only real solution is independence. Let's get into it.
And when you're finally, I wanted to ask, when you're talking about seeing individuals engage in that anti-authority and perhaps escalating their beliefs or their motives in that level, I'm wondering what the public can do in order to be vigilant, or what they can do to help in trying to ensure that there is safety and security on that front.
Well, radicalization in general quite often will show by people isolating themselves and changing their behavior, like changing what they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist. Like, and if someone you know was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards like traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
Oh boy. Okay. So let's dig into that RCMP interview, because that's wild. The spokesperson, of course, is a French lady who looks like she walked straight out of a feminist protest or a liberal arts faculty. She actually compared people who believe in tradition with extremists, smirking while she said it, like it was all a funny joke. I'm not surprised though. It's always the same type, isn't it? So here's the new government narrative. If you believe men are men and women are women, if you say there are only two genders, if you don't think men belong in women's sports, then congratulations, you're now a radical, a dangerous extremist. Welcome to the club. These people aren't even hiding their contempt for the average Canadian anymore. Kind of reminds me of a little someone who insulted millions of Canadians who publicly disagreed with his globalist agenda.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views.
So it's Canada Day in Canada, and it feels bittersweet. A lot of the guys on site are asking me if I'm going to be celebrating Canada Day, and I'm like, what is there to celebrate, to be honest? Ever since 2020, the government pretty much told us how they felt about the unvaxxed, and the huge amount of numbers of people who still believe that in Canada is wild. Even though there's so much evidence against it, the government went into people's bank accounts, locked them up. And then the guy who literally called in for having bank accounts locked is now running the country, and he's a globalist from Europe who's trying to align Canada with Europeans and European like governments are the hotbed for the New World Order and absolutely tanking Western society. And somehow these newcomers to Canada can't even see it. I miss the old Canada. But this is just siphoning the middle class to pay for a bunch of illegal refugees. Pedophilia is being normalized in Canada. Drug addiction is okay. So many drugs. Crime is up. The economy's in the shitter. And all you have to do is go on CBS or CBC and tell the NPCs that that's not true, even though most of them are starving and can't pay their bills. They're still like elbows up, even though Mike Myers was found on the P. Diddy list, but elbows up, right? I don't know, it just feels like for 5 years, some of us have been warning Canadians of which way it's going down, and there's just no waking up. So it just feels like a sinking ship. It's like watching a train wreck, right? But you can't really look away. Maybe September 1st, when Alberta became a province in Canada, or when it gains its independence, we can celebrate, but I just feel like there's not much to celebrate. You know what I mean? It's just become like this dark place where people say shit like freedom is racist. That was the number one saying in Canada in 2020 to 2023. They literally said freedom was racist. But anyways, those of you who are managing to find something to celebrate Canada Day with, I guess, happy Canada Day.
You look around and more people, especially here in Alberta, are realizing there's just nothing left to celebrate when it comes to Canada. This isn't the country they grew up in. It's become a place where conservative Canadians are demonized as extremists, where rights are handed out like privileges, then yanked away the second you step out of line. Immigration is totally out of control, erasing any trace of Canadian identity, and affordability? Forget it. Can't afford to live, can't afford to leave, and you're told to be grateful for the privilege. Meanwhile, crime is through the roof, homelessness is exploding, and the media just keeps pumping out taxpayer-funded fairy tales, trying to convince people everything is fine. Don't believe your eyes. And somehow the same politicians who caused this mess keep getting re-elected by Ontario and Quebec. A lot of Albertans held out hope that maybe a conservative win in the last election would turn things around. But now, even they're admitting that hope was misplaced. Because no matter who wins in Ottawa, Alberta loses. The only real path forward? Independence.
It surprises me that I was naive enough my whole life to think that Canada was actually working with us. I mean, really. Alberta Prosperity Project is actually what its name intends us to be. We want us to be prosperous. However, we're seeing in live time that that's almost impossible based on what's happening to stop that from happening. I mean, never in my lifetime, as naive as I'm finding out that I am, would I have thought that our federal government would be working against us consciously to hurt our industry. Who would have believed that? Not me, for sure. And now I understand that after April 28th, I had an epiphany. Up until that point, I was independent Alberta within Canada person, thinking that that was actually a possibility.
No such thing, my friend. Can't convince people who do not want to be convinced, unfortunately. The quote you see on the screen is from a former Liberal organizer during the 1980s named Keith Davey. He said, poetically, "Screw the West, we'll take the rest." Really a frank expression of how those in the East, especially in the Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal bubble, view Alberta and Saskatchewan. The amount of disdain in that declaration should be enough to make you realize that they've never seen Alberta as part of Team Canada or whatever they call it these days. Alright, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.